games, no fluff. Just what happened. Her keys jingled like nothing was wrong. She was halfway out the door when she turned, flicked her hair, and laughed. "I'm going on a date," she said, slipping on her heels like she was heading to brunch with friends. "Don't be jealous." That sentence didn't just sting. It rewrote the air in the room. I was holding the vacuum cord in one hand and her favorite hoodie in the other. She didn't even glance at me, just smirked. My brain short-circuited. This wasn't a fight. We weren't arguing. There was no conversation leading up to this. She just dropped that on me like it was normal. I asked as calmly as I could, "Did you just say a date?" She looked over her shoulder. "You heard me. I've already told you we're in a weird place and I need to explore. You're always so needy. I need something different, something exciting." My throat tightened. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shouting. I was just cold, frozen. My chest didn't feel like mine anymore. My body felt like it had been borrowed by a stranger who didn't know how to breathe right. So I said it. Not because I planned it, not because I thought it was clever, just because it was the truth. "I hope he likes my leftovers." She stopped. I swear, stopped cold like someone had hit her with a mute button. Her face fell, not all the way, just enough to show the cracks. "Excuse me." I walked past her, calm as ice, and set her hoodie on the counter. "You're not coming back here tonight. You can keep the dress, keep the shoes, but don't expect me to be sitting on this couch when you stumble home." She tried to laugh again, but this one didn't land. It was hollow. "Are you being dramatic right now?" "No," I said without blinking. "Just done." And I meant it, because while she was getting ready for her date, she had no idea that I'd already packed my bags. No idea I'd found the receipts. No idea what I'd mailed to her parents' house the day before. And definitely no idea what I was about to post. I didn't slam the door. I didn't even raise my voice. But I could feel her eyes burning through the hallway as I calmly stepped into the bedroom and zipped up my bag. The same duffel I used when we visited her sister in Vermont last spring. Except this time, I wasn't packing flannel and snacks. I was packing silence. She followed me in, confused now. Not angry, not apologetic, just off balance. "Caleb," she said slowly, like maybe I'd gone insane. "You're seriously doing this because of one date?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The envelope on the bed did the talking. It had her name written in ink. Inside was everything. Screenshots, copies of messages, a printed receipt from that shady little wine bar across town, even the email confirmation from her solo spa weekend that was booked for 2 people. I wasn't guessing anymore. She picked it up with shaky hands, and I watched her eyes dart across each page. Denial melted off her face faster than I'd imagined. It was the first time I'd seen her actually speechless in months. "You've been spying on me?" she snapped finally, holding up the evidence like it meant less because she was angry. "No," I said. "I've been waking up next to a stranger. This was just me trying to remember who you used to be." That landed harder than I expected. Her shoulders dropped, and for a second I thought she might cry. But no, Loretta wasn't the crying type. She was the spinning it back on you type. "I only did this because I felt invisible," she muttered. "You're always so boring. You never fight for me. You just exist." That cut deeper than anything else. I never fought for her. I sacrificed weekends, plans, my mental peace, just to avoid arguments she sparked for fun. I gave her everything, and asked for barely anything in return except maybe respect, or maybe just truth. "Well," I said, slinging the bag over my shoulder, "now you don't have to feel invisible. You'll feel alone instead." And I walked down. No goodbyes. No more sticky notes with dumb jokes on the fridge. no waiting for her to change. She wanted excitement. Let's see how exciting it feels when your husband quietly disappears. Not in rage, but in absolute final calm. The funny thing about leaving quietly is that nobody believes you're really gone. At least not at first. Loretta didn't call me that night. She didn't text. Maybe she thought I'd come crawling back once the guilt settled in. Maybe she thought I'd sleep in the car, parked around the block like some rejected sitcom husband. But I didn't. I was 30 meters away by sunset in a rented Airbnb above a bakery that smelled like cinnamon and burnt sugar. The walls were thin, and the bed squeaked when I sat down, but it was mine, and it was silent. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe hard. I just sat there and stared at the phone that didn't ring. The next morning, I checked the security camera app I'd set up months ago when she started working late. I never told her I had access. I never told her I'd renamed the camera in the living room to something harmless like Wi-Fi extender. She never noticed. She never cared. That morning, 8:12 a.m., she stood barefoot in the living room staring at the spot where the couch used to be. I'd taken it along with my books, my record player, and the framed photo from our trip to Atoria, the one where she wore that floppy hat and kissed my cheek like we were still in love. She looked around like the walls were closing in. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was still in last night's curls, now flattened and lopsided. She rubbed her eyes, then stood there frozen for a full minute before picking up her phone. She started typing something. I waited. Nothing came through on my end. I guess she deleted it. Good. Letter. Later that afternoon, her best friend Sylvia messaged me. "Hey, Loretta's freaking out. What happened? Did she do something?" I almost laughed. Did she do something? I didn't reply. Instead, I uploaded a private video. Not public, not to social media. Just a timed message scheduled for Loretta's inbox. It was me, sitting in that creaky Airbnb chair telling her exactly why I left. I didn't scream. I didn't blame. I just told the truth. About how I'd been watching her drift away for over a year. About how I begged for her attention in quiet ways like warm coffee cups and folded towels. About how I'd stopped recognizing the woman she became. And then I ended with the words I never thought I'd say. I didn't leave to hurt you. I left because I couldn't keep hurting myself. When the timer hit send, I shut my laptop, laid back on the noisy mattress. And for the first time in 2 years, I actually slept through the night. It was the 4th day when she finally knocked. I hadn't told anyone where I was, not even my brother, who I usually called when things got weird. I'd left no return address, no goodbye letters, just space. I needed space. But space, it turns out, is loud when it's filled with your own thoughts. I was halfway through reheating leftover lasagna from the bakery downstairs when I heard the knock. Not a loud bang, just deliberate, familiar. I didn't answer. I stood still, staring at the door like it might evaporate if I waited long enough. She knocked again, softer this time. Then I heard her voice, muffled, unsure. "Caleb, I know you're in there." She sounded like she'd been crying or maybe faking it. At that point, I didn't trust my ears, let alone her. "I just want to talk," she said. "Please." I should have walked away. I should have let her talk to the door like she left me talking to silence for months. But instead, I opened it slowly, carefully. She looked nothing like the Loretta who left for her date. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun. She wore one of my old hoodies, one she used to steal before things got cold between us. Her eyes were red. Her hands were trembling. "You left," she whispered, as if I didn't know. "I did," I replied, voice flat. "I didn't move from the doorway. I didn't think you actually would." That sentence, that exact sentence, hit me harder than all her lies combined. It wasn't that she cheated. It was that she never thought I had the spine to walk away. That I'd always be there waiting, folding laundry, pretending not to notice. You said you were going on a date. I said, what did you think I was going to do? Clap? She winced. I was trying to get a reaction out of you. I was stupid. I wanted to see if you still cared. And your plan was to mock me. She didn't answer. She just looked down at her shoes. It was never real. The guy, the dinner, I didn't even go. I got to the car and just sat there crying. I didn't know you'd actually go through with it. I stayed silent because I didn't know what to believe. And honestly, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. She looked broken, but I wasn't sure if it was guilt or the shock of losing control. I messed up, she whispered. Yes, I said, you did. She looked up at me, eyes pleading. Can we talk? Please, just talk. I stepped back, not because I forgave her, but because I needed to hear the full story. I needed to know if this was regret or just the fear of being left behind. As she stepped inside and sat down in the creaky chair where I recorded the video, I realized this was it. The moment that would either lead to closure or chaos. I closed the door behind her. She sat there on the edge of the chair like she didn't know if she was allowed to rest her full weight. Her hands were curled in her lap, picking at the seam of her sleeve, my hoodie sleeve, like she could scratch her guilt into the fabric. I stood by the counter, arms crossed, unsure what part of me she expected to talk to. The man she ignored for a year, or the ghost she didn't think would leave. I've never been good at apologizing, she said after a long, unbearable silence. But I need you to understand something. It wasn't about him. There was no him. Not really. I raised an eyebrow. So, the wine bar receipts, the spa weekend, the lipstick-stained shirt in the laundry. What? Imaginary? She blinked fast, her voice cracked. No, I mean, yes, it happened, but it wasn't serious. It was a distraction. I didn't even like him that much. He was just there. And I was angry at you, at myself, at everything. And so, you decided to punish me with indifference, with betrayal. No, she said sharply, then looked away. Yes, I don't know. I just stopped feeling seen. Caleb, you were always there physically, but it felt like you were somewhere else, like you were just waiting for life to happen to you. I wanted to scream. Not because of what she said, but because I'd heard it before from myself in the mirror, night after night. I knew I had faded, dulled, turned into someone who kept his head down just to avoid another passive-aggressive argument. But she never asked what was wrong. She never reached for me first. She just shut down and shut me out. So instead of telling me you felt disconnected, you decided to humiliate me. I didn't think you'd care, she said quietly. Not really. Not enough to leave. I shook my head, my laugh bitter and low. You wanted me to fight for you, but I was too busy trying to survive you. She looked stunned. Maybe because it was true. Maybe because I'd never said anything like that before. I shouldn't have come, she said suddenly, standing up. I thought I could fix this, but you're clearly still angry. Angry? I repeated. Loretta, I'm not angry. I'm tired. I'm so exhausted from carrying a marriage you kept cutting holes in. She froze. Her eyes welled up, but I didn't move. I couldn't comfort her without betraying myself. I just wanted us to feel alive again, she whispered. I didn't know how else to do it. Maybe, I said, you should have tried honesty. That tends to wake people up. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was final. She looked at me one last time, maybe hoping I'd ask her to stay. But I didn't, and she knew better than to ask. She walked to the door. This time, I didn't watch her leave. I turned away before it clicked shut. 2 days passed after she left my temporary apartment, and in those 2 days, I didn't hear a single word from her. No calls, no messages, just quiet. And the thing is, I thought I'd feel peace in that silence. I'd imagined that once I got space from her, I'd be able to breathe again. But the truth, the silence was heavier than the noise ever was. It wasn't the kind that healed. It was the kind that hovered. And I hated that part of me still listened for her footsteps, even in a place she didn't belong. I kept replaying everything she said in that room. The way she blamed feeling unseen. The way she tried to turn her affair into some tragic emotional accident, like I was supposed to understand it, maybe even pity it. But I couldn't. Because when someone destroys you slowly over time, the worst part isn't the explosion. It's the fact that they lit the match months ago and watched it burn. On the third morning, I finally opened her email. Subject line: "If you read nothing else, please read this." Inside was a letter, probably written and rewritten a dozen times. Didn't sound like her. No sarcasm, no pride. Just words that felt like someone trying to find pieces of herself under the wreckage. She wrote about the early days, how I used to leave notes in her coat pockets, how I always waited in the car with a travel mug of coffee during her winter shifts. She said she missed that version of us. Said she didn't even know when she started resenting the life we built, that it was never about the other man. It was about feeling like life had turned gray and she didn't know how to bring back the color. I read the email twice, then I shut the laptop and just sat there staring at the wall like it might give me an answer. What do you do when the person who broke your heart is also the only one who understands it? What do you say when someone tells you they finally see the pain they caused, but only after you've bled dry? That evening, I got a knock at the door again. This time it wasn't her. It was Sylvia, her best friend, the one who used to text me Christmas cookie recipes and now hadn't spoken to me in months. She looked uncomfortable, holding a paper bag and a folded note. "I know you don't want to see her," she said, "and honestly, I wouldn't blame you, but she asked me to bring this. She's not doing well. She's not pretending anymore." I took the bag. Inside was a scarf I'd given her years ago, one she wore every winter until last year. Underneath was a note in Loretta's handwriting, a list of all the things she said she regretted, a list of memories she said she'd give anything to relive without ruining them. It didn't say, "Please come home." It said, "Even if you never forgive me, I needed you to know this." I didn't know what to feel. I still don't, because there's a certain kind of sorrow that shows up after the damage is done. A sorrow that doesn't beg, doesn't scream, doesn't even ask to be helped. It just sits there, waiting, hoping the person they hurt might still look back. And I wasn't sure yet if I would. I kept the note. I folded it twice and slid it under the worn book I'd been pretending to read for days. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away, but I also couldn't look at it without feeling like I was falling back into something that already drowned me once. It's a strange feeling knowing the person who caused your worst heartbreak is also the only one whose voice your heart still responds to. Like a reflex, you never unlearn it. For 2 more days, I didn't respond. I kept myself busy, or at least I tried. I reorganized my playlists, deleted old photos, even moved my toothbrush from the left side of the sink to the right. Stupid things, small things. But every little change was like reclaiming a space she used to occupy without asking. Then one night I answered a call. Not hers, Sylvia's again. "She's in a bad place, Caleb." She said, "I'm not calling to guilt you. I'm just worried. She's not eating. She barely sleeps. She told her mom everything, even the stuff she never admitted to you. She said she didn't think she deserved to ask you to come back, but she had to try anyway. I stayed silent, gripping the phone so tightly my hand ached. Sylvia sighed softly. She didn't expect you to forgive her. I think she expected you to hate her, but I also think she's hoping you'll at least remember who she used to be. After we hung up, I stared at the ceiling for hours. I couldn't stop thinking about the old Loretta, the one who used to dance barefoot in the kitchen to terrible pop music, the one who once drove 2 hours just to surprise me at work with lunch and a love note tucked inside a Tupperware. The Loretta who kissed me like she meant it. Every single time that version of her had vanished, long ago, and in her place stood someone I didn't recognize. A version carved by bitterness, boredom, and poor choices. But what haunted me more than the betrayal was the question I couldn't shake. What if I had played a part in her fading? 2. I finally opened my laptop. Her email was still there, unread again. I read it one more time slowly, and this time I didn't skim the ending. I'm not asking for you to fix what I broke. I'm only asking that if you ever remember the good, you'll believe I remember it too. I closed the laptop and took a deep breath. I didn't know if I wanted her back. I didn't know if love could survive that kind of tear, but I knew I couldn't pretend like none of it mattered anymore because it did. It still did. The next morning I dialed her number. My finger hovered over the call button. I wasn't sure what I was going to say. If I'd scream or cry, or just sit there in silence. But I pressed it anyway. She answered on the first ring. Her voice on the other end was soft, hesitant, different. Hello. And that's when it hit me. She didn't sound like my wife anymore. She sounded like a stranger, trying to find her way back to the person she used to be. I didn't say anything right away. Neither did she. For a few moments, all that passed between us was breath. Uneven, quiet, waiting. I could hear a distant hum behind her, maybe the TV or a radio left on low. It didn't matter. What mattered was that for the first time in months, we weren't yelling, pretending, or walking away. We were just present. I wasn't sure you'd ever call, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I wasn't sure either, I admitted. But I read your letter again. All of it. She took a breath like that hurt and healed at the same time. I meant every word. I know, I said. That's why I'm calling. There was silence again, but it felt warmer now, like something thawing. I wasn't calling to fix everything. I wasn't calling to go back to what we were, that version of us, the one buried under lies, silence, and resentment, was gone. But maybe something new could grow in its place, something slower, smaller, and more honest. I don't know what this means, she said gently. Are you saying? I'm saying I'm willing to talk, I replied. I'm not promising anything, but I'll meet you. We can talk. Really talk. I'd like that. We met the next day at a small coffee shop downtown, one neither of us had ever been to. Felt fitting. A place with no shared memories, no ghosts in the walls. Just two people facing each other as strangers with a messy history and a fragile hope. And somehow that was enough. We didn't jump back into love. We didn't pretend nothing happened. We just listened, talked, laughed once even, and when we said goodbye, she didn't ask me to come home. I didn't offer. But we hugged. A real, human hug. And that's where we started, not where we ended. Not with bitterness, but with a choice to begin again. Not as husband and wife, but as two people who finally saw each other clearly, scars and all. And maybe, just maybe, that was the real miracle. Thank you for sticking through this deeply personal story on Reddit Confessions. Speech Balloon, now it's your turn. Have you ever experienced a moment of reconnection after everything felt lost? Or maybe you forgave someone who truly didn't expect it. Share your most surprising story in the comments below. We read every single one. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Reddit Confessions for more unforgettable stories that remind us how messy, painful, and sometimes beautiful life can be. See you in the next.